And I can hear you.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome again. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Obina. You're welcome, Paul. All right, it's good to know you can all hear me. Good afternoon, everyone, once again, and welcome to today's Business Leadership Development Series. My name is Sarah Ugu, and it's a delight and always a delight to have you here on behalf of Rome Business School Nigeria and the team at Career Service Department. I extend a well welcome again to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ayobi Shote, and our moderator, Adesua. And of course, you, our executive students, you're welcome to today's section. Today, we're going to be talking about effective decision-making techniques in high-stress environments. But before we dive into today's discussion, I would like to take a few housekeeping rules for, I know that a lot of us are familiar with the rules. For those who are joining us for today, I'm going to be sharing the rules with us. So as you know, as soon as you log in, your mic is going to be muted. This is to help us, minimize background noises that may occur as you log into the section. We also understand that you may have one or two questions during the course of the presentation for today. Feel free to make use of the chat box. You can drop your question. We have a moderator who is Adesua, who will be taking notes of your questions. There's going to be time for Q&A. So when it's that time, she will address all the questions. And during the Q&A section, if you have a question and you want to be able to unmute, you want to use the mic, you can raise your hand and the moderator would unmute your mic so you can make your contributions or ask questions. Also, I want to encourage everyone to log in with their full names. If you know your device is named with something else, like your business name, let me encourage you to change it or quickly rename it. You can log out and log back in and rename your device so that when the moderator wants to call you, she can address you by your name. Okay, so this current is going to be live streamed on Facebook. We encourage you to only put on your camera if you are in a sitting position. It's going to be live streamed. Also, it's going to be shared on our YouTube channel. So you wouldn't want to see your yourself in a position that is not so pleasant. So only put on your mic if you're sitting upright, and if you're not, we encourage you or we plead with you to leave your cameras off. Last but not the least, this section is recorded, and after the section, we're going to be sharing the recording of the section to your various emails. We encourage you to fill the attendance. That is where we're going to be extracting your emails from. We encourage you to fill it so that you can get access to the recording. And if our speaker is able to share the slide of today's section with us, you will also get access to that as well. All right, thank you all for listening. We can get started. Like I said earlier, today's section is an incredibly relevant topic. And we're so fortunate to have our speaker, Mr. Ayobi, here with us, who is going to be sharing his expertise and his insights on today's topic. Mr. Ayobi is a consultant, he's an executive coach, and he's the CEO of BVI Consults Limited. You can check his organization up on LinkedIn, and you can check his profile up on LinkedIn as well. Without more further ado, I'm going to be handing over to Adesua, who is going to be moderating today's section, to take the mic and introduce our speaker. Adesua, are you here with us? You're muted.
Okay, so I'm here. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Miss Sarah, for the brief introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's edition. This month's edition. This edition is basically about its RSBN Business Leadership Development Program, And the topic for today is such an interesting topic. I mean, it's a topic that we all need to listen and pay attentive to. So irrespective of your department, irrespective of whatever it is or your career path, it's a topic that we all need to listen to. And the topic for today is effective decision-making technique in high-stress environment. So you see why I said it's a topic that we all need to listen to. And we have our guest speaker here. I'm going to be introducing him shortly. But before then, let me just say a quick one about myself. My name is Adeswa Tony Osaige. I'm the founder of 1609 Digital, and it's my utmost pleasure today to moderate today's event. And what this event does, in essence, is that it brings top personalities from prestigious industries and the arts to run business schools so that our community can hear and learn from. I'm so excited about today's program. And if you know you're also as excited as I am, please can you drop an emoji, your favorite emoji in the comment section so that we can all see how excited you are. So without further ado, let's get to meet our guest speaker for today. His name is Mr. Ayobi Shote. I hope I got that right, sir. Is it Shote or Shote? Shote.
Shote. Yeah, you got it right.
Okay, okay. So let me just run down his bio. His bio is so impressive. So I think we all need to listen to his bio today. So Mr. Ayobi Shote, as the CEO, he's a consultant and is also an executive coach at BVI Consults Limited. Ayobi Shote has led numerous workshops and training sessions that have been designed to enhance executive development and leadership skills. His work primarily focuses on the oil and gas sector, with a specialization in decarbonization, GHG auditing, and executive development, offering strategic insights that drive improved energy industry operations. At Etihad Oilfield Services Limited, as the CEO, Ayo strategized and led initiatives that significantly boosted sales and operational growth. He successfully delivered a turnkey project for NNPC in the Komani field, improving operational efficiency by 25% and reducing cost by 30%. His leadership resulted in optimized capital allocation and resource management. As the Chief Operating Officer at Abicot Energy Services Limited, Ayo enhanced operational performance by 15% and equipment efficiency by 20%, overseeing critical projects in the Niger Delta. His leadership in these projects demonstrated his ability to drive operational excellence and efficiency in challenging environments. During his tenure as VP and Managing Director at Baker Hughes, Ayo increased OBPT by 90% to $196 million. He played a pivotal role in driving substantial revenue growth and expanding market share across West and Central Africa, showcasing his strategic acumen and leadership in a competitive market. As country director for the South Gulf Sub-Geo market at Baker Hughes, Ayo successfully managed operations in Oman, Yemen, and Pakistan. He grew turnover from $167 million to a whopping $213 million, demonstrating his ability to lead cross-cultural teams, I beg your pardon, and navigate complex market dynamics effectively. Ayobi currently serves as the chairman of the board of directors at AMW Petroleum Development Company and holds non-executive director positions at MacAlpha Inc. Canada, Ruta Exploration and Production Limited, ME Solutions Nigeria Limited, and TESS Incorporation Limited. In these roles, he provides strategic guidance, market insights, and oversight for business growth and development. Ayobi holds a Master of Arts in Leading Innovation, I beg your pardon, and Change from York Saints University, and a Master's in Business Administration from the University of Liverpool. Yes, so that brings me to, to the end of reading your bio. So that's so impressive. Before we get into today's topic, this is kudos to you. And before we get into the topic of today, I know this is so not related, but can you just tell us how you've been? how you've done this so far. What has been your motivation? What has been your inspiration? And I'm sure this whole feat you have achieved has been in, there's no way you would have been stressed at some point. And because our topic today, is related to, being in a stressed environment. So have you been able to do all of that? How were you able to achieve all of this and stuff like that?
Okay, well, the first thing is to recognize that stress is part of life. And the moment you recognize that stress is part of life, it then means that you will also understand that change is part of life. Now, those two go hand in hand. 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with someone, and I said, man by nature will like to be comfortable. So when we get into a place, what do we want to do? We want to create a comfort zone. But life, by nature, will always throw you a curveball. So throughout my career and even from now on, I always expect change. I always expect stress. So I make sure that I design into what I do on a daily basis activities to ensure that I manage the stress. The first thing I don't ever do, no matter what goes wrong, you will not see me shout and say, "Oh, why did this happen?" I never do that. I'm calm and I say, "Okay, fine. It is something has gone wrong. What has gone wrong? What do we do about it? How can we make it better?" In a nutshell, that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. And everybody that I mentor or coach, that's what I push them to do. So I hope that has answered your question.
Yes, it has answered my question. So let's dive right into today's topic. Over
Okay.
to you, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so give me time to just show my screen and then I will start my timer because when I looked at the timetable, I realized that I have 40 minutes. I will try to stick within that. So good afternoon, everyone. Like it has been said, my name is Ayo Shote. You will notice I wrote Ayo because Ayo is easier to call than Ayo B. But my full name is Ayo B Shote. And what I'm going to be talking about today basically is effective decision-making techniques in high-stress environments. A few minutes ago, I said stress is part of life. And as leaders, even as just normal people walking on the streets of any country where you live in, you've got to expect stress every time. Now, is stress good? Stress is not really good. It's not good physiologically on our bodies. It's not good for our minds. But unfortunately, because stress is part of life, we've got to learn to deal with it. So, decision making, understanding what stress is, and decision making is something that is very critical to learn. Now, that's my profile on the screen. My background is engineering. I've done a number of years in the oil and gas industry. And while working, I came to realize that people are more important than equipment. Equipment is important, systems are important, but people are the ones that bring everything together. So that launched me in this direction of being a strategic consultant, a coach, and also a leader. That was actually what got me into leadership in the first place. A desire to always make a change, a desire to ensure that people are better than I met them, and a desire to ensure that wherever I find myself, I always improve on what I find there. So my professional focus is basically leadership development, executive and business coaching, strategy consulting, primarily in the oil and gas business, but I can consult even in other industries. Corporate governance and compliance is also a big thing. And then of course, the in the energy sector, you also have to talk about green energy and sustainability. That's why sustainability and carbonization is also something. And then, of course, I do public speaking and I have a book. I have a book on Amazon, Empowered Leadership. If you have the chance to go buy it, it's there both as a hardcover and also as an ebook. Please do buy it and read. And of course, I will welcome feedback from you on how you think we can improve that. So what are we going to be talking about for over the next 38 minutes? Basically, we're going to be try to understand what stress is and the impact of stress on decision making. We're also going to be we're going to learn practical techniques to make effective decisions under pressure, and we're going to apply those techniques to a real world scenario. If this session was longer than 40 minutes, we would have done maybe two or three case studies, but today we're only going to do one because I'm just trying to manage time. So, understanding high stress environments in business leadership. Now, in business is basically about solving problems. If you identify a gap in society and you create a business or you create an innovation or you create products to meet that need and you get compensated for that, that is basically what business is. Now, You have leaders in business. You have people that rise up and they lead organizations, or they are the ones that are change makers, or they are disruptors in the business environment. And because they're always there, you always see change happen in business. And because change happens in business, that means you also have to align it with stress. Nigeria, for example, today, because of the way the economy is, things are moving at speed. Every day you wake up, something has changed. Prices have changed. The cost of running business has increased, significantly. In some cases, what you bought your raw materials for yesterday is now, 60% less than what you're buying it for today, and you cannot increase your sales price. That's stress in itself. So, in business environments, there's always stress, and we need to understand what stress is and how to manage it. So, a high stress environment is where leaders are forced under intense pressure, right, to make decisions. And because the pressure is intense, it affects our decision making abilities. I said because I've experienced this before. When the moderator was talking, was saying something, one very funny thing happened when I was still with Baker Hughes. And I left Baker Hughes in 2016. By the time I got back to Nigeria in 2012, within 8 to 9 months of being back in Nigeria for Baker Hughes in Nigeria, all my hair was gray. And that's why you see me that I shave my hair now, because I don't want to look older than my age. But all my hair was gray. And I remember my wife telling me, when you went to Nigeria, your hair was not gray. So what's happening? And I told her it's stress, right? Because stress has a huge impact on your body itself. So, and as leaders, we must expect it. So it's important that we know that that's any environment where I'm under intense pressure, you're under intense pressure to make decisions or to do something, it will impact your decision-making abilities. The other thing is, the characteristics of high stress is urgency. You are always required to make quick decisions, right? The stakes are high. You make a decision, this decision is wrong. The impact of that decision on your business, on yourself, on your family, on your team is also very huge. So the outcomes have significant consequences. And of course, there's quite a lot of uncertainty. For many of you on this call, I'm sure that you will agree with me that there's sometimes you need to make a decision and you don't have all the inputs, you don't have all the data, but you have to make a decision, right? If you're waiting to get all the data and to analyze all the data and be sure that the result you will get will be a perfect result, that is what we call analysis paralysis. So in an environment where you don't have all that data, that's a high stress environment. It's important for you to know that it's urgency, high stakes, and uncertainty. So what are the common scenarios, high stress scenarios in business? When you're trying to manage a crisis, and managing a crisis goes from public relation disasters, where maybe a member of the organization says something on social media and everybody comes after that organization. Right? I know quite a lot of you are on Twitter and on other social media platforms, and I'm sure you have seen this before. You can imagine what the leaders of that organization are having to deal with at the back end when something like that happens. Because one, they've got to understand what happened, they've got to understand where it's coming from, they've got to understand what they need to do. They put a team together and they start responding on social media to some of those accusations or some of those comments, so they can douse all that. Because if they don't, it impacts their ability to do business, impacts their revenue. Right? There was one that happened I think it was sometime last year in Nigeria, about a tomato paste and sugar and so on and so forth. Was he handled well? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that that organization had to deal with that, right, is a crisis, and they had to manage that crisis. Cybersecurity breaches, what I mean by that is hackers. When somebody gets into your computer systems and either shuts it down or they steal the organization's money through that. Or maybe you have a product that you launched and the product failed spectacularly. That's a crisis. So that's a common high stress scenario in business. Financial pressures. Nigeria is a typical example about this, right? Economic downturns. The economy is in such a state that when you go to bed last night, the cost of production might be A, but today it is A minus something, right? Or A plus something. So your cost of production has increased, from one day to the other. Budget cuts by the government impacting business. Investor demands, right? Quite a lot of businesses out there have investors, people that put money in the business so that you can start. And then they see what is happening, or maybe the management team is not doing what the management team needs to do. And then investors are insisting you must do it this way. That's financial pressure, right? Or an investor says, I want my money, I want to exit this business, and you don't even have any cash in the business. Having to deal with that, right? It's financial pressure, it's a high stress scenario. The other one is organizational changes. Maybe you are acquired as an organization, or you are in an organization that has been acquired, and you are worried about your job. Will I still have a job by tomorrow? Right? Or you have leadership transitions. An MD leaves suddenly, it was not planned for. Another one comes in. The fact that you do not even know that new person or the way we react to a situation is stressful in itself. And then also you have threats from the competition, right? You have new competitors in the market, they're disruptive. You are used to doing a particular product a particular way. You have your clients, you have your clientele, you have your customer base, and then a competitor comes in and brings a new product or a new packaging in the same products arena that basically messes up your own plans or your own financial projections for that project for another 6 months. You've got to respond to that. Or maybe the market changes totally, market pivots in a totally different direction. You've got to respond to that. So, and then finally, regulatory changes. NAFDAC brings out a new law, or in the oil and gas industry, NUPRC or NMDPRA brings out a new law. Or it might even be the CBN in the banking industry says this is the way we're going to do something going forward. And your organization has been set to respond to all the old laws. And then suddenly you realize that with this new law, we've got to restructure, we've got to get rid of people, or we've got to recruit people, or we're going to have legal disputes to deal with. These are scenarios that bring high stresses in business. So, what are the factors that then contribute to stress in business leadership? Most times we don't have time. You don't have time at all, right? Like I said earlier, there's an urgency to make a decision. For those of us that are leaders, you will agree with me if you're on this call and you're a leader, you have led a team, or you're leading a team, or you have led a business, you're leading a business, you will agree with me that most times you need to make a decision fast, and you need to ensure that you execute on that decision. So that's a factor that contributes to stress. The moment you know you don't have that time, your blood pressure spikes. I know when my blood pressure is spiking, right? My body, I know when my body reacts in a particular way, I know, okay, fine, I'm under stress right now, and I've got to look for something to do to want to control the stress, because if I break down, the organization will suffer, but two, to make my decisions quickly and execute. So limited time to assess the situation and make a decision. Information overload. Sometimes you have too much information to deal with, or the information is conflicting. You have four people in your office coming to tell you about a crisis. They are all going to be talking to you and telling you from their own different perspectives. And in some cases, they're going to be contradicting each other. As a leader, you need to be able to listen to all of them, gather all that data, and make sense of it. Because the buck stops at your table. Your decision will be the final decision. Everybody is looking at you. They want you to decide, and so they can go and execute. And if you decide and you tell them to go execute, even if they don't execute properly, and you have another failure, guess what? Guess who they are going to blame? You as a leader. So that's one of the reasons for stress. That's a factor. Of course, resources are never enough. Money is never enough. You don't have enough customers. So you're operating most times as a business leader with budgets that are constrained, or you don't even have the right type of people in the right places in the organization. That is a factor that causes stress. And of course, like I've talked earlier about investors, stakeholder expectations. Now, stakeholders go beyond investors. The government is a stakeholder. Your employees are stakeholders, right? Your customers are stakeholders. Your team are stakeholders. So you're going to have to balance demands from shareholders, from employees, from customers as a business leader. And that's a factor that causes stress. And then all that leads to emotional pressure where your personal accountability is on the line. And then the morale of your team is your responsibility also. I remember there was some years ago, I was still working with Baker Hughes then, and there was supposed to be a merger. There was a company that was trying to purchase the organization, and another company came and gave me an offer. And I made a decision on the basis on the basis that if I leave today, my team will be impacted negatively, because you're already dealing with an uncertainty anyway. So on that basis, I decided I was not going to take that offer from another organization. And I stayed back for another, I think I stayed back for another 15 months before I finally left. So those are the factors that contribute to stress in leadership. So what is then the impact of of high stress environments on decision making? I think here I have about five that I'm going to talk to you about today. The first thing is that you have what we call cognitive overload. Too much information, or you are so overwhelmed that you cannot even get your thoughts right. Right? It's the information is too much, the impact on you is too much. You need to put things in the proper perspective before you can even process that information. Now, all of us will learn differently. Some of us are visual learners. I need to see everything drawn. I'm a visual learner, for example. I need to see everything drawn in boxes in a flow chart to understand it. Some of us are auditory learners. The moment we hear it, we can figure it out in our heads. Some of us, we need to sit down and run numbers. And some of us, we have bits and pieces of the three that I've mentioned, and there are more than three, by the way. If you do not develop a way to manage the overload of information and put in the right perspective, your decision making will be impacted. The next thing is your response. I said earlier that I never react, I never shout, I never show anxiety, I never show fear, I never allow frustration to show. Even if I feel it, I look for a way to diffuse that first. Something as simple as I'm sitting from my computer, I'm writing an email, somebody sends an email to me, and that email upset me. I will not respond to that email. I will get up and take a walk. Even if it's 5 minutes, I walk somewhere. Is that either I go talk to somebody on a totally different subject so that my mind calms down based on what I've seen, or I walk to a place and I go to pray. Right? I'm a pastor, so I do that. That's my mindfulness exercise. I go and pray somewhere just to make sure that I manage my emotional response. The other thing is there's let me explain this way: risk of bias. We all grew up in a particular environment. The person you are today is a result of all the experiences that you have experienced growing up, meeting the different people you have met in your life, even where you went to university. All that becomes a bias. The way you respond to things is based on all that example. If you take that and you use that in your decision making process as a business leader, as a leader in anything, even at home, right? You will make mistakes, because if you walk into a place and you do not take all the data that you see, but you reach a decision based on your preconceived notions or your preconceptions. In fact, let me explain it this way. How many of you, and you can answer that in the chat box, and I know that the team will review that later. How many of you have taken decisions based on what you think? And they ask you, why did you take that decision? Well, I just felt that's the right decision. And then later you then realize that you made a mistake. And the mistake was so bad that you have to then spend a lot more time trying to correct the result of that mistake. That's basically what biases does for you. So as a leader, you cannot allow your preconceived notions to always come to the fore when you're making decisions. And that's why you must go back to ensuring that you understand the information that you have, processing it properly, and you process it in a calm manner so that there is no anxiety, no fear, no frustration, and then you then make that decision. The last thing is, when you take all the first three, the cognitive overload, the emotional responses, the risk of bias, when you roll it up, it affects your ability to think innovatively about the solution, or even to consider alternative solutions. Now, briefly, let me talk about innovation. The technology industry has made innovation seem like it is when you have a new technology product, a new software, a new smart device. That is innovation. No, that's not only innovation. Innovation happens everywhere. Innovation is the ability to think, to look at something that is existing, and you think of a better or a new way to execute on that thing. So that means every day innovation is part of our lives. So it's important for you that your creativity is not reduced, in a high stress environment. You must look for a way to manage that high stress environment and ensure that you are able to think of alternative solutions, or you're able to think of a totally new solution that nobody has thought of at all. So that is the impact of high stress environments on decision making. So what is the role of the leader? I'm very big on leadership because I believe that leadership, one, all of us are leaders. You can lead from anywhere in the organization. That's number one. But leadership basically means you're taking responsibility and you're being accountable. That's basically what leadership means. And if your decision making in any area of life has to be sound, then you must see yourself as a leader. So in high stress situations or high stress environments, the leader's role is critical. So let's look at it on this slide briefly. One, a leader is a stabilizing force. It provides direction and reassurances to the team. The day I learned this, I was shocked. This was years ago. I think this was in 2007. I was working in Port Harcourt. I was a leader in that organization. The entire organization has experienced an assassination of one of the managers. So everybody was on edge. I was not getting the right kind of support I needed to get from my managers in Lagos. So this day I was so frustrated and I voiced it. I said, "Listen, I'm tired of all this. I'm going to walk away." And a colleague came to me and said, "Please don't say that again." And I said, "Why?" He said, "We all are looking at you. It is the way you carry yourself that is giving us the confidence that we are going to survive this." And that hit me like a shock. I never thought about it that way. But the moment the guy told me that, I then realized as a leader, what I say has an impact on determining the direction my team will face. And I'm talking about 2006, right? And that I basically looked for a way to incorporate into my life as a leader. And that's why I don't react negative. I don't shout. I don't scream. When something goes wrong, I am calm. It drives people nuts. It makes people upset with me because they think I'm cold. I'm not cold, but it's just that I've got to control it because people are looking at me. And every one of you on this call, you must learn to imbibe that. So because you provide direction and reassurance to the team. The other thing is that as a leader, it is your job to maintain long-term focus. You're not only thinking about what you need to do today, you have to start thinking at the same time of whatever decision I make today, what is the impact of that decision on me, my team, my organization in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So strategic thinking is your role in high stress situations. You've got to focus on long-term goals while addressing immediate issues. The other thing is you must own your decision. I tell my team, I said, the buck stops at my table. This is where I run my team. We sit down in a room, we think of all the problems, everybody brings their solutions. They bring their suggestions. No suggestion is stupid. You cannot laugh in my meetings, you cannot laugh at another person's suggestion. Then we roll everything together, and based on that, we then prioritize. We're going to talk about prioritization today also. And then we determine what do we do? You know, what fits into this? What does not fit into this? And by the time we're done, I then take the final decision because I am responsible for the outcomes. I am responsible for learning from that. I take the final decision and I tell them, go execute, go execute, go execute. And they know that if they execute and it does not work, I step up and accept responsibility. But they also know that if they execute and it works, right? I tell my bosses, these are the guys that did the job. You need to praise them because I own the decision. The buck stops at my table. And finally, I must learn to communicate. If you don't know how to communicate, you cannot be an effective leader. So you must learn to convey clear messages despite the chaos that is happening. So you must be the calm in the storm. Everybody is running helter skelter. You must be the one that is calm. You cannot be screaming like every other person. That is the role of a leader in high stress environments. So in this first part, what are key takeaways? Like I told you, high stress environments are integral to business leadership and they require skills. You must understand the nature of those environments and you must be able to prepare and respond effectively. Lack of understanding of a high stress environment means that you cannot respond effectively and that means you're not prepared. And then you must be aware of the contributing factors so that leaders like yourselves can learn to mitigate stress and the impact of stress. So what is the impact on decision making? We're going to drill into that. The first thing I want us to look at is the psychological effects of stress. What do I mean by that? How it affects your mind. How it affects your mind. A lot of us, when we are stressed, what do? We have headaches. We have migraines. Our blood pressure spikes. We fall apart. I don't know if you've heard of the phrase "caught like a deer in the headlights." If you've ever crossed the road when a car is speeding down I don't know whether it has ever happened to you before. I've seen it happen to somebody in my presence. The moment you realize that that vehicle is speeding down, you pause for a few seconds. Why? Because at that point, your mind is affected. Say, I am going to die because this vehicle is barreling down on me. Internally, your brain is running and looking at all the options. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? A lot of people die because of that pause. A lot of people also survive because if they have trained themselves or they are used to making decisions on the fly, they know that the next thing is, I need to get out of this place fast. And they jump out. So the psychological effect of stress is this. It elicits in you a fight or flight response. Now, a fight or flight response is that automatic psychological reaction to any harmful event or threat, right? Do I fight? Do I run? Do I stand? Do I run? The same thing, you're walking somewhere, you hear gunshots. Some people will run before they find out where the gunshot is coming from. Others will stop and look, where is it coming from before they then decide, okay, I need to go in the opposite direction. The difference in the reactions is a function of how you are as a person psychologically. Now, what's the impact of that on decision making? If you don't know how to control it, you will start taking impulsive actions without evaluating the situation. What I mean by that is you just decide, bah, without thinking of what is happening around here, why did it happen, what do I need to do next. And in a lot of time we prioritize immediate survival over long-term planning. For those of you that live in Lagos, some years ago there was this explosion in a military cantonment and somewhere in Ikeja, and that was because fire entered the armory of that military cantonment, and all the bullets and so on just started to explode. A lot more people died running from that thing because it happened at night. I think early in the morning, around 3 or 4 or something. A lot of people died. A lot more people died running from that thing because they ran out of the barracks, or those outside the barracks ran into the swamp around the barracks and they drowned. Why? Because they basically decided to run instead of stopping to say, what is happening? Why is it happening? What do I need to do? The next thing is anxiety. Stress brings anxiety. And anxiety is a feeling of worry or unease about uncertain outcomes. Oh, what will people say? Oh, if I get fired today, how will I feed my family? And the impact of that on decision making is that it makes us either overanalyze, analysis paralysis, which is what I mentioned earlier, or it causes indecisiveness. We don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What do I do? And then you talk to everybody, and everybody tells you something different every time, and it basically confuses you. And then, because you are indecisive or you have even overanalyzed the situation, the fear of making the wrong choice comes in. So you end up not making any choice at all. And then the final one here is tunnel vision. Sometimes, because of preconceptions or preconceived notions, you're so focused on only one thing. You don't look at all the other data sets. What it then does is that you overlook alternative options, you overlook the broader implication of your decision you're about to make, and ultimately you cannot be creative in solving your problems. As a coach, I tend to ask people, what will you do? And they tell me, okay, why would you make that decision? And by the time they've answered, maybe they've not seen a particular aspect. I say, have you considered this? And most of the time they say, oh, I never considered that. And I'll tell them, okay, fine. Now consider that, go back and look at the entire data and make a decision again. And over time, as you do that over time, because it takes practice, you then get better at taking the proper decisions in high stress situations. The next thing is physiological. Physiological is the impact on your body itself, right? Your heart rate increases, which means you are supplying more oxygen to your muscles, which means if your blood pressure is bad, it can cause you physical discomfort. Your heart is beating fast. You have this headache, you don't know where to come from. You are so distressed. You can't sit down, you're just walking up all over the place. It distracts you from being able to think critically, and it forces you to rush your decisions because you want to get back to that place of comfort where all that discomfort, your increased heart rate, your headaches, and so on, goes away. So that is the impact of stress on your body. The other one is that adrenaline. Now, adrenaline is linked to the fight or flight. Adrenaline is an what's the word? I think it's an enzyme in the body that the body secretes when danger is imminent. Right? It's a drug. If you ask a doctor, they'll tell you it's a drug. How will you know? If you have experienced a high stress environment and you have reacted, I don't know what happens to a lot of you. By the time you now get back to a place where everything is now back down and you are relaxed, most of the time you see that your hand is shaking or your body is shaking or suddenly you feel cold and you're shaking. That is the withdrawal effect of that adrenaline. When it reduces in your system, your body reacts to it. That's what we call causes jitterness or restlessness, right? Now, when the adrenaline is surging, you can overestimate your ability to solve a problem, or you can even overestimate the risk that you are facing. It ultimately leads to bad decision making. And you see that in high intensity businesses, the financial industry, for example, especially in the investment area where people are used trading with people's money. If you are here and you are trading forex, for example, or you are trading crypto, you will recognize what I'm about to say. You tend to make wrong decisions when you see a trade. You see that if I make that trade, I'm going to make so much money. Your body starts to produce adrenaline. If you don't know how to, slow yourself down, come back down, and focus on the right decision to make, you will make the wrong decisions because you overestimate your capability or your skill. And then ultimately, by the time all this is done, it also drains your physical and mental energy because that's what prolonged stress does. That's why you suddenly somebody is sleeping too much, right? Concentration is reduced. And when concentration is reduced, attention to detail is reduced, and then there's an increased likelihood of errors or omissions. So, what are the common pitfalls? What are the common mistakes that we make under stress? We make quick decisions under stress. And when we do that, we make those decisions based on incomplete information. What it then means is that we overlook better alternatives and we also increase the risk of negative outcomes. That means failure. And when we overlook critical information, right, or warnings or key data points, right, it leads to uninformed and flawed decisions and can exacerbate the stressful situation. Now, I'm going to say something now that a lot of you will not like me for. Nigerians are too emotional, especially when we're talking about the economy, talking about the country. And the net effect of that is you go on Twitter, you go on social media, somebody says something, you have not checked whether what they said is correct. You have not checked their source because you always have seen the country as always doing, going in the wrong direction. What do? You jump on the bandwagon, you make your decision based on that, and you start criticizing everybody. Now, I'm not saying that the government has done fantastically well. I'm not saying they've done wrong. I'm saying as Nigerians, let us learn to always ensure that we gather all the data points and then we make our informed decisions based on what we see. And when you do that, you will know when you don't have enough data. You go out and look for the data. You talk to more people. You talk to people that are more experienced than you or knows a little more than you. And then you come back and you make your decision based on that. The consequence of overlooking critical information is making flawed decisions or informed decisions and worsening the stressful situation. That's the consequence of it. And then the final thing is, we talked about bias earlier. Most of the time, when we are under stress because we want to make a decision fast, we basically misread all the data that we have, all the information that we have, and we believe that it aligns to our pre-existing beliefs. Or we see the ones that align with our pre-existing beliefs, and then we ignore all the ones that are showing us that your decision might not be correct. Have you looked at this? And when we do that, we basically disregard evidence that can actually help our decision making to be more robust. And it also means that we are not objective in evaluating all options. That's why, as a leader, everybody in your team, no matter their level of experience, no matter whether what they are saying in that meeting is stupid or not, you must learn to listen to everybody because you need to be able to evaluate all options. But as a leader, also you need to know when to stop and take a decision and move on. So how does stress impair decision-making quality? One, it reduces our ability to solve problems. That's the first thing that it does. Two, because when that happens, we cannot generate innovative solutions. The second thing is that it interferes with our emotions, right? Our ability to be intelligent emotionally, and that's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand somebody else's point of view and to be able to take their point of view and put it in your model, whichever model you are using, and then be able to take the right decisions, right? Stress impacts that ability to do that. So what it then does is that We're focused too much on the emotions that the stress have caused, and it clouds our judgment. And then, of course, it causes cognitive overload, increases all the data that we have, and the ability to think through is then impacted because stress consumes our mental resources that we need for decision making. Decision making is tough, it requires thinking. Now, some of the things I'm telling you today, I want you to learn from it and use it even with your children, for those of you that have children, because I did that with my children, right? Because I was lucky, I learned this in on time. So my children, when they were growing up, most of the time when they are stressing about something that is not working, I ask them, why do you think it's not working? And it forces them to slow down and think. And then they say, oh, it's because of this, because of this. And I then tell them, have you thought about this other item? Have you thought about this other data set? Have you looked at solving the problem this way? And then you see them come back and then focus on, now they're more relaxed because I've taken away the emotion out of the situation. Two, they now learn to look for other data and then they now make a proper decision. Then we can then talk about their decision and then we can then go back and look at the process and tell them this next time this is what you do, even if I'm not there. So I am begging you to also try this with your children at home because it helps them grow up better and they're more efficient ultimately. So how do I recognize and mitigate stress? When something is going wrong, seek input. As a leader, you are not the smartest in the room. Trust me. Let me repeat that. I want you to get it. As a leader, you are not the smartest in the room. And members of your team, they might not have as much experience as you, but because they might not have the same preconceived notions that you have, might be looking at that situation from a totally different perspective. So seek input from your team members, gain different perspectives, and then check yourself. Am I calm? Do I have anxiety? Am I allowing this thing to get to me too much? Monitor your physical and emotional state. If your physical state is not in the place for you to lead, get another member of your team to lead. You can remain in the room, but get another member of your team to start that conversation, to have that conversation, and then you use that to then gather your data and calm yourself before you can take the ultimate decision. And then pause and breath. Always take time out to refocus and to reset. Think about what you're going through. Think about the data that you have. Think about the information that's been given to you, and then come back and make that decision. So, with that, you can then start to prepare for high stress situations by regularly engaging in scenarios that will simulate pressure, right? That's why the military is so fantastic. The military is always training. They are always training. They are always looking at different scenarios. What if this happens? What do we do? You will see that in the SEAL teams, the US Special Forces. The Special Forces are always doing that. They even do that more than regular soldiers. Train and practice. As an organization, think of scenarios that could bring pressure to your organization and take out time to say, what if it happens? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And develop playbooks from that. And then you can then use that playbook to train other people. The other thing is that develop coping mechanisms. I told you about I will get up from my computer and walk away rather than respond to an email that is annoying me, right? And that's mindfulness. I go and pray. I go and talk to somebody else. I go and sit down somewhere and maybe take a bottle of water. And then I manage my time. If I'm focused on something and I'm not getting the solution from that thing, for that thing at that point, I stop it, I go do something else. Because now, when I go do something else that's totally different, my brain will walk in a totally different direction. And when that part of my brain that is supposed to come to that decision is relaxed, it becomes easy. Sometimes I go take a nap. And I've done it time and time again. I go take a nap. By the time I wake up, the solution to that problem I'm trying to solve, I get it. Why? Because I have that nap is a coping mechanism I've developed to be able to manage stress. And then ensure you build a support system. Have people you can talk to, even if it has to do with your marriage. My wife, she has people that she can talk to that I am not privy to. Same thing with me. Why? Because if both of us are together in the house and we are there every day, we can fight. But if we can then have a support system where I can go tell somebody, listen, myself and my wife, we had an issue this other day, and this was my reaction. Was I right? And these are people that I can be accountable to. You can do that in your businesses. You can do that in your career. Build a support system. Rely on trusted people for advice and assistance. So, what are the key takeaways from this particular section now? They are: one, awareness is crucial. Recognize stress, recognize the effect so you can manage it better. Two, your psychological and physiological factors, you've got to understand that your mind and your body are connected, and those factors influence your decision making, so you must be able to manage it. And then avoid pitfalls. Develop strategies and plans to counteract the common stress induced errors that you are making. You must know yourself to be able to do that. Now, how do we then make decisions? We're going to look at five different techniques: mindfulness, emotional regulation, structured decision-making models, prioritization and time management, team involvement and delegation, preparation and scenario planning. So let's jump into it because we don't have time anymore. So for mindfulness and emotional regulation, it basically means staying calm under pressure. Well, how do you do that? Learn to regulate your breathing. If you if you notice every time you step into a stressful environment, your heart rate increases. When your heart rate increases, your body needs oxygen. You will then notice that you start breathing faster. Force yourself to slow down breathing, right? Learn to breathe to counts. Inhale slowly with your nose, hold it briefly, and exhale with your mouth. Just do that, calms you down and it enables you to remain calm. Or you can inhale while counting four to four in your mind, hold it, counting to four again, and exhale, counting to four, holding, counting to four, and do that. By the time you do that 3, 4, 5 times, you would have calmed down, your heart rate would have slowed down. Then you can start looking at the data and looking at the situation. The other thing is learn grounding techniques. Identify 5 things in your environment you can touch. No, 5 things you can see, sorry, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 that you can smell, 1 that you can taste. Why are you doing that? You're taking your attention away from the stressful environment to yourself so you can calm down. And then relax. Sometimes I do this. I bunch my fist, I release it while I'm breathing. And you can combine any one of these techniques so that you can get calm under pressure before you start making a decision. Now, when you're calm, the next thing now is focus. How do you maintain focus? Mindful breathing is part of it. Walking away and going to talk to somebody else about something, or praying, or just coming down and closing your eyes for a few minutes so that you can clear your mind and reduce the stress. And then listen to people, be present. Sometimes I'm walking, somebody comes to talk to me about something. I close my computer. I walk away from the computer. I turn my phone upside down. Why? So I can be present, I can listen to the person. Because when I listen to the person, I pay close attention to them. I can help with the proper decisions. And also my environment sometimes. I am very intentional about where I work. Sometimes I'm walking, I get up and I stand outside, I'm looking outside the window. Why? So I can bring my focus back to what is important. So when I'm doing that, I am clearing my head so that when I come back to that stressful situation, I can focus on it. The second technique is developing structured decision-making models. We're going to look at, I think, 2 today. The first one is what I call the OODA loop. And the OODA loop is observe. Gather all the information that you can from all the available sources, and then orient it. What does that mean? Analyze that information and your current situation. Why am I in this situation? How did I get here? What happened? What did I do? What did so and so person do? And then the next thing is you then decide. Based on this, your analysis of the information, you then decide on the best course of action, right? Observe could take you days or weeks or hours. Orient could take you as much. Decision also could take you as much. But when you have all the information and at least you have analyzed it, decision becomes faster and better. And then you then act on your decision-making process. Implement that decision promptly. Now, if you notice on my screen, I have shown this like a loop because you can implement the decision, and then in the course of implementing, you can realize that, oh, maybe another information comes up. You go back to observe. You take that information, you then analyze it based on your implementation, then decide on the next best course of action, and then you act again. You keep doing that until you are finished, solving that particular situation. You can take this also and apply it to specific business issues also. This next model is a decide model, which is detect. Recognize that you need to make a decision here. The stressful situation has happened and you need to make a decision. Recognize that first and foremost. Then assess the situation and the possible outcomes. One, if you don't make a decision at all. Two, if you make a decision and the decision is wrong. Three, if you make a decision and the decision is right. Assess the situation and all those possible outcomes. Then you choose your most favorable option. Because between detecting and estimating, you would have gathered data. That's important. Don't forget that. Gather the information that you need and then recognize that you need to make a decision, assess that situation, and then select the most favorable option. Because when you're estimating the possible outcomes, you have more than one possible outcome. So select the most favorable one and then identify the actions you need to take to execute on that decision and then go carry it out. And then when you have done that, you then evaluate the results of your actions and adjust if needed. So the two models we have looked at basically says you've got to gather data, you've got to analyze the data, you've got to decide what to do, you've got to execute, and then review, and then go back if you have to. Those are the two models we're looking at today. And then the third technique is prioritizing and time management. What does that mean? Let's talk about the Eisenhower matrix. It's a matrix. It's a four-part matrix broken into four quadrants. Basically, what this matrix helps me to do is help me to prioritize. And if I can prioritize properly, it means I can manage my time properly. The first quadrant is so you are faced with a situation, you have all the data, you based on the data, you know the task that you have to do, but you don't know which one that you need to do immediately. This one that is important that you need to do later, one that's important that is not important, but you must do something about it now, and one that is not important and you don't need to do anything about. You use this matrix to identify them. So quadrant one is urgent and important. Every task that you need to take in this situation that is stressful, that is urgent and important, you put in that box. Then quadrant two, it's important, but it's not urgent. So those are things that you can do later. Because if you don't do this, most of the time, and it has happened to me time and time again, where you are working on the task that is important, but it's not urgent. And because you are doing that, you have ignored the task that is urgent and important. So you must be able to identify them, and then you need to be able to schedule them later. And that helps with your time management also. Quadrant three now is it's urgent, but it's not important. You see the difference between that and quadrant two? Quadrant two is important but not urgent. The one that is urgent but it is not important means that you can delegate it to somebody else. Look for somebody in your team and say, listen, I need you to do this for me. When you don't bring it, let me review it and I can tell you whether it's good or not. That way, you are not overloading yourself with acting and taking decisions for everything. And then quadrant four is it's not urgent, it's not important, get rid of it. I do not care whether it's important to another person. For as long as to you and your team, it is not important and is not urgent, eliminate it, minimize it, or get rid of it, right? So when you take this, for example, and you combine it with the UDA or with the decide model, right? You then have the right kind of tools that can help you take decisions in high stress environments. And technique number four is learning to involve your team and learning to delegate. Involving your team and delegating means that you are leveraging the expertise of your team. Everybody in your team has something to offer. Let me repeat it. A lot of managers and leaders do not understand that. Everybody in your team, whether the person is an IT student or the person is a youth corper or the person is a trainer, everybody in your team has something to offer. You must look for a way to leverage the expertise of the team. Gather insights from them. Now, one of the best ways to do it is learn to talk to your team before you hit a crisis. I do that quite a lot. I get up sometimes, I go sit with my team and we just talk. And sometimes I tell them, what if you're in this situation, what will you do? And I listen to them and I learn from them. So that helps me also identify people that have specific skills that can solve a particular problem for me. So when the crisis hits, I already know them. I'm going to them and say, guy, I need you to look at this for me. This is the situation. Look at it and come back to me with what you think will work. And then we take it from there. That way, your stress is reduced. Yes, you are the leader. The buck stops at your table, but your team also, they will be happy that you're coming to them. And that way they bring skin into the game. Now they are focused on ensuring that as a team, you all succeed. The other thing is encourage collaboration, foster an environment where input is valued, which is what I just described. When you listen to them and you act on what they say, they are happy that you are listening to them, and recognize that they have different perspectives. Recognize that. So, and when you do and you listen to them, you benefit from their different viewpoints in making decisions. And then when you have that, you must then learn to delegate effectively. What is delegation? Assigning responsibilities. Match their tasks to their strengths. You must know your team members. You must know what is their strength. Now, as a leader, one mistake that we all make is that we want everybody to be like us, to think like us, to behave the way we behave. If you have a team like that, disband that team now. Look for people that have skills and strengths that you don't have. Look for people that have skills and strengths that will enhance what you have, because you are not perfect. They are not perfect. But when all of you recognize that you bring different things to the team and all of you are equally important, you will then be able to operate as an effective team. The other thing is, when you are delegating, ensure your instructions are clear. Ensure that your team understands your expectations and the deadlines that are needed, and then trust them to make decisions within their scope. They must not all come to you. This is the way I do it. So I'll give you an example. People come to me and say, "Sir, we have a problem." Okay, fine. I listen to them. When they're done with narrating their problem, the next question I ask them is, "So what do you think is the solution?" Most of the time they are shocked because they never expected. I think I'm the only one that will have the answer. If you're the only one that will have the answer, that means you're going to die early. I'm sorry I'm saying this because you're going to be stressed. But the moment they then learn that I'm willing to discuss with them and listen to their point of view, guess what? By the time they're coming next time, they know there's a problem. They've thought about the solution. They've already thought about what would justify the solution. And then we then talk about, okay, fine, your solution is perfect or it's not perfect. You don't have this data, you have this data. And then by the time we then decide on what needs to be done, even if they're the ones that will go and execute it, because they're part of the process of making that decision, guess what? They execute and they execute well. Right? And that's because I empower them. So you must learn to do that with your team. Number 5, you must learn to prepare. This is what I meant about planning before the stressful situation happens. Scenario planning is important, right? What does that mean? Scenario planning and preparation means you're being proactive. What does that mean? Your plans are current. You keep them current with changing circumstances. Every big business must have this. If you see a big business that collapsed because the market changed on them suddenly and they suddenly go out of business, because I'm an operations excellence expert, you will realize that they never had plans or their plans were not upgraded. Let's talk about power in Nigeria, electricity. One of the problems we have issues with the national grid is that the national grid has not been kept updated with increasing demand. The national grid we have today was designed for the 1960s. So that means, as a nation, we're not proactive, irrespective of whose responsibility it is, right? The other thing is that we kept electricity generation and distribution as a purview of government for too long. Government cannot do it. It's got to be commercially driven because it needs investments, it needs revenue. And when you're talking about investments and revenue, people that are commercially focused, market focused, are the ones that are supposed to run it. So it goes back to the fact that we were not being proactive. And then we didn't have contingency plans. So when you keep your plans current and updated, you then must be able to think of possible emergencies, possible obstacles, and how do I prepare for it when it comes. And the next one is then develop scenarios. Oh, we already have this, it's perfect. My manufacturing plant is perfect. Everything is working well, but I have only one generator. What if that generator spoils? What will I do? Do I go to hire? If I'm going to go hire, do I have the contract with the place I can hire? Or is it when it spoils, I start looking for where I can hire a generator? Or is it diesel generator? What if diesel is scarce or the price of diesel jumps by 200% from one day to the other? Do I need to go get a gas generator? Or if I cannot afford to buy a gas generator, do I need to have someone or a company that has gas generators that can hire from? That's what you do. So you think of what could go wrong, and then your responses, your actions are planned for each potential situation that could go wrong. You must then be able to anticipate the possible outcomes, the best case, the worst case scenarios, the most likely scenarios, and plan for it. That's what leaders do. And that's important. And that's why, as a business person, as a career focused person, you must learn all these skills to be able to make the proper decisions. Now, one thing you must learn to do, you must learn to be able to integrate all these different techniques, combine methods. Example, use mindfulness to stay calm while applying the structured methods, either the Side-Uda or the Eisenhower matrix. Must be willing and ready to adapt to situations. Tailor your techniques to fit the specific high stress context that you have. And then the more you practice, the more you learn. The more you practice, the more you learn. Part of practicing and learning is reflection. Go back and reflect on your experience in that particular stressful situation. Look at your decision making. Look at the way you analyzed your data. Identify what you did well, what you did wrong, and then roll that back into your learning situation. Now, when you do this, you realize that even when somebody new joins your organization, to train the person becomes easy because you already have data. You have learned from what has happened. You have incorporated it back into your organizational culture. And then people that then join, they fit into your organization better than if you guys do not have some of these frameworks or techniques at all. So what are the key takeaways here? You must stay composed. Mindfulness helps you to manage emotions under pressure. So you must stay composed. Think of a way to stay composed. Look for it. Friends, you have friends you can talk to. Learn to pray. Learn to listen to music. Learn to listen to the Bible or the Quran, whatever works for you, but you must stay composed. The other thing is use the frameworks. There are more than these ones that I've presented. Time will not permit me to dig further into presenting others, but there are frameworks out there. Research them. There might be specific frameworks for a specific industry. Research them and learn to use them because they help to guide efficient decision making. Then learn to prioritize. Focus on the tasks that matter the most. Don't waste time on something that will not bring immediate value. Then engage your team. That team is there for a purpose. Collaboration leads to better outcomes. And finally, preparation reduces uncertainty. Now, let's look at one case study. We might not have the chance to discuss it, but I'll look at it and I'll take you through the process that these guys use so that you can understand it. So there was an organization that was facing unexpected economic recession. This is the profile of the company, of global manufacturing organizations specializing in high-end consumer electronics, headquarters in the United States, have manufacturing plants in Asia and Europe. Very complex because all the legal jurisdictions are different. Sales offices in over 30 countries. They have over 20,000 employees worldwide. They are recognized as an industry leader with a very strong brand. And this is what they produce: smartphones, laptops, smart home devices. And then they basically faced a sudden global recession that was triggered by geopolitical tensions and a pandemic. Now, remember 2020 now? Similar thing. So, and the next thing was there was an impact on demand because of the pandemic, people are not moving around. Demand reduced. Consumers reduced their discretionary spending. That's what happens every time there's a crisis. You reduce what you spend to what is important. And then corporate clients, right, also delay or they cancel large orders. So that was going to lead to 25% drop in sales, which means demand of what they produce was dropping. And some of these things they've already produced, sitting in the warehouse, waiting for the orders to come so they can send. So they've already spent money. That means not only is their revenue going to drop, they're also going to lose money on what they've produced, right? Then that would then lead to even some of the key components they are using in their factory become scarce because of the pandemic, right? Which means they will have to shut down some factories in some regions, right? It also then means that there's a delay to shipping because they cannot move some of these raw materials to where their plants are. They cannot move some of their finished products to where the little demand that is there is, which means there's delays to manufacturing, there's delays, there are logistical hurdles. That means their supply chain is disrupted. And then stock prices are dropping because the market is looking at them. They are sitting on the stock exchange somewhere. The market is looking at them. The market knows that the pandemic is affecting them. The market knows that some of their customers has cancelled orders. The market knows that they're having issues with getting parts to meet the little orders that they have. The market knows that they also have stock in the warehouse that they cannot sell. So shareholders are already selling some of their stocks, and the price of the stocks has reduced by 30%. When that happens, it means that their access to cash is limited. And then investors have now started to put them under pressure, asking them what are they going to do to protect their interest. That means there's a pressure, there's a time pressure, there's a demand for immediate action, which is coming from the shareholders' pressure. So what do they then do? Additional complications. They have internal challenges and operational challenges. Like I told you, they have overstock issues because their warehouse is filled with inventory that they produce that they cannot sell. That means their cost of storage is increasing. Their cash is reduced, like I said earlier. I don't need to say more because when cash is reduced, that means they cannot even fund ongoing projects. They cannot keep employees and pay them from that cash until the market changes. They will have to reduce headcount. They have to, sack some people or do redundancy. That means employee morale is affected because employees know they're going to lose their jobs. If employees know they're going to lose their jobs, they will not come to work and do the right things, which means there might even be errors in the little that they are doing anyway. And then the competitors that know that they are going through this issue or already have a more efficient system to be able to deal with the pandemic will then start encroaching into their market. And then, of course, negative coverage in social media and everything. Those are the additional complications. So what did they do? Basically, they used a quick decision-making model. They used the OODA loop. The first thing they did was they looked at what was happening. They collected the data. Now, if it's a properly run organization, they already have an idea of what the size of their market is. They already have an idea of where their market is going to react to what is going on. They already have an idea of their competitors in the market and what the competitors are doing. So they put all that, they put it in a model and they analyze it, right? And then they also understand from their key clients, suppliers, and employees what is happening. They've taken input from them. Some of them are saying, if you can just keep this for me for 6 months, I'll buy it from you, even if I'm going to give you a 15% markup on the sales price. If they don't have all that data, they cannot make a proper decision. So they need to observe, gather the data, and then they need to analyze that data. Which product lines are affected the most in the cancellations? And those product lines are affected the most, what is the cost of producing those products? If we have to store them for another 2 years, what is the cost of doing that? What is the health of the organization today? How much cash do we have in the bank? That's liquidity. That's the situational analysis. They're looking at the situation now and they're analyzing it. And then they then decide, okay, we're going to do an analysis. A SWOT analysis is we're looking at our strength. Is our brand strong enough? Is it diversified enough? That means are we making more than one product, right? To be able to survive this? What are we heavily reliant on? That's the weaknesses. Am I reliant on the premium products? Maybe an iPhone 16, for example, using Apple as an example. Or is my major revenue coming from an old product that is so cheap to make that I can keep making that and keep getting revenue until the market changes, right? Or what is out there in the market? Can I tell my employees to not to come to work so that they can start working from home? Or can I develop a product that will enable the entire world to be able to work remotely from home? If you notice, in 2020, for example, Zoom became more important than before 2020. Why? Because suddenly Zoom, Teams, and all these other virtual tools became more important because we could work from home with them. We could get onto meetings from home. So the value of Zoom as an organization basically jumped. If you go back and look at the product that Zoom has today, they have more products today than they had 5 years ago. Why? Because the pandemic helped. That's the opportunity in the market. And then threats is when, is this going to last for longer than 2 years? What are my competitors going to do? Do my competitors have a better product than I have and they will be able to jump on this? That is what the orient phase basically entails. And then the decide phase now says, what are my choices? Do I shift focus and go to laptops? Because laptops are needed for remote work, even if the cost of shipping them to where it is needed is higher. Because some organizations that did not give everybody laptops will suddenly want to buy laptops to give to all their employees so that they can work from home. Do I need to diversify my supply chain? Can I get other suppliers of my products so that I don't rely on only one supplier? And then how can I reduce costs? Those are their choices, and they need to make a decision on that quickly, and then they execute on it. What did they do? They reallocated marketing efforts to promote high demand products. They negotiated with suppliers for better terms and alternative sourcing, and then they introduced flexible pricing options and financing plans for their customers so that their customers know, okay, I can pay over 1 year instead of looking for money to pay once. That customer was okay, that means I can keep my money for other things in this pandemic and I will not suffer. So I will take that. So they will still book the entire revenue anyway, and then the money comes in based on the agreements that they already have with their customers. And that's what they did. in a nutshell. Now, this process took months for them to get there. But the moment you have a model, it becomes easy to know what to do, what to look at, what to analyze, the decisions to make, and how to execute pretty quickly. And then they make sure that they leverage on their internal expertise. The team already had a crisis management team. They already had people, executives, and key department heads are already part of that crisis management team. So the moment the thing happened, they launched into action and they set up the rapid protocols for their decision making. And then they also got their employees involved. What did they do? Virtual town hall meetings to update staff on what is happening. Guys, we're not going to fire you. We're going to keep you. These are the things we are doing. We need your help to be able to save cost. And then they also conducted open forums for employees to even bring suggestions and feedbacks. Everything they did virtually. Everything they did virtually, but they got everybody involved. So the team was involved, and the team knew that the entire organization was pulling together to ensure that they survive. Guess what? They brought their A game, they brought their best ideas to the fore, and the organization survived. And they also ensured that there was cross-department collaboration. They encouraged teamwork between R&D, marketing, and sales to ensure that the solutions they brought were innovative solutions so they could survive. And that's what they did. So what was the outcome? They mitigated the losses that they were seeing before. They positioned themselves properly for recovery. Their financial results showed it. They were able to reduce their revenue decline. Rather than their sales dropping by 25%, it dropped by only 15%. And then they achieved a 10% reduction in operational expenses, which means their profitability, instead of it to have dropped maybe by 30%, will not drop only by 20%, which means they can keep their employees. The other thing they did was they were able to then adapt to what the market wanted at that time. They increased production and sales of laptops and webcams and reduced the production of mobile phones. And then they were able to enter new markets, right, with affordable product lines. And then, like I said earlier, employee morale was fantastic because they did not have to release anybody. They avoided large-scale layoffs through cost-cutting elsewhere. During the pandemic, I worked for an organization that reduced salaries by 30%, just to ensure that they did not drop anybody. And they achieved it. And then they boosted engagement, improved morale due to transparent communication and involvement. So imagine they did not have a crisis management team. Imagine they did not already have a structure to deal with this. People would have felt that the executives were hiding things from the management, were hiding things from them, and they were only thinking only about themselves, and morale would have dropped. And then shareholders were happy because the stock price recovered and decided to buy those stocks again, and the price went up. And then, stakeholders and shareholders basically understood that these guys had an action plan and they were getting regular updates, and the organization survived. So, what are the key success factors? Now, we're rounding up now. We have just about 3 or 4 slides to go. One, effective leadership is a success factor when it comes to taking proper decisions in stressful environments, right? Because the leadership of this organization that we did the case study demonstrated decisiveness and adaptability. They adapted. And that came from the fact that they had been learning, they have been planning and doing scenario planning, knowing that things like this might happen in future, and they were ready for it. And also because they were ready for it, they were able to make quick decision making. They implemented their strategies quickly to minimize losses. And they ensured that they had collective effort across all the different departments. And of course, they focused on the customer. It was not about, oh, how do we stop losing money? It was about, what does the customer want? How can we get it to them cheaper? How can we ensure that we keep the customers, they pay not once, but we pay over a period of time so that we keep our customers loyal to us. And then finally, they were communicating all across their stakeholders, customers, employees, shareholders, government, everybody they were communicating. So those were the key success factors for that case study. So what have we learned? I'm talking about general now for the entire session, learn to apply these techniques in practice by learning the structured models. No, sorry. Let me step back. The lesson learned from this case study is that they realized that the OODA loop facilitated rapid yet thorough decision making. The value of team involvement was important because the different perspectives that they got across the different teams, across the different employees, enriched the problem-solving process. They realized that there was a need for flexibility. So they were able to develop strategies that will allow them to pivot from one direction to another direction in response to the changing conditions in the market. They realized the importance of emotional intelligence. They managed the stress levels by ensuring that the leadership was present, the thinking process was clearer. They were able to communicate to the employees. The employees know that, okay, the organization has our back, and because of that, we're focused on delivering for the organization. And finally, preparation pays off because they had contingency plans already. They were able to adapt quicker. Now, some of you will be saying, oh, there's no company in Nigeria that can do this, or small companies cannot do this. Take it from me that has been practicing for years. Small companies can do it if the entrepreneurs of the small companies want to do it. Companies in Nigeria do it. I can give you names, but I'll not mention the names on an open call like this. But companies in Nigeria do it. One bank did it. Last year, they lost a major part of that of the leadership of that organization. The bank did not collapse. They pivoted because they already had a succession plan. So they already knew the person that was going to take over if something happened. Something as simple as two executives. When I was working for Baker Hughes, for example, if I'm traveling from Lagos to Abuja, my immediate reports do not travel in the same plane. They take a different flight. That's part of what I'm saying. So you must always prepare. You must always prepare. You must always prepare. Now, so reflection generally, how do you then prepare for future challenges? The first thing you must learn to do is, like this organization did, is strengthen supply chains. They developed a more robust and flexible supply networks. They invested in innovation, focusing on R&D to stay ahead of market trends. They also ensured that they enhanced their risk management frameworks. Regular scenario planning, stress testing the scenario they planned for, ensuring that they practice it regularly was what helped them to prepare for future challenges. And thereby, they were able to then promote a more agile organization where continuous learning was important, which means their internal culture was a resilient internal culture. So, what do we then do? How do you then do this? You need to be able to build competence and adaptability. When you consistently use these techniques as a leader daily, it helps you to build proficiency. So, like I said, learn to simulate high stress conditions to enhance response capabilities. You might be part of an organization, leader of a team, and you're working in an environment where kidnapping is a risk, right? Develop a framework where what if somebody is kidnapped in your team? What if you are the person kidnapped and you can only get one message out to your team? How will your team react? And you guys must learn to simulate that environment and understand who do we call. Is it the police? If we call the police and they give us this response, what do we do? Learn to do that. Global organizations do that a lot. I've run a similar uh, uh, um, simulation, working for bakeries in Nigeria. What if one of my experts are kidnapped? Or what if they go to the rig and they're kidnapped? What will I do? Or what if war breaks out in the country and I have an entire organization of 490 something people in country? What do I do? Who do I call? And we sat in a war room and we simulated it. And I got other locations outside Nigeria involved because I needed to be able to call them, with satellite phones, non-mobile phones. What if all those don't work? What do I do? How do I get people out of the office? How do I get people to the airport if I have to get them out of the country? You can narrow this down to whatever your situation is, and then learn from experience. Reflect on past decisions. I've said that time and time again. Reflect on the outcomes, identify areas of improvement, incorporate the lessons into future decision-making processes, and then learn. And that's it from me. I've taken more than my 40 minutes. I recognize that and I apologize for that. But I hope I've been able to deal with this subject, making decisions, techniques for making decisions in high stress environments. Thank you very much for having me here.
Wow. Thank you so very much, sir. I could say that this is a master class. This is not supposed to be a webinar. So I'm sure we're all looking forward to the slides so we
Yeah.
can properly take time to sit down and go through the whole slides because I mean these are key. You mentioned key areas you've mentioned key specialization areas. In fact, you even talked about SWOT analysis. You dived into the phases of how to pick urgent and not important and urgent and stuff like that. So it was amazing. It was amazing. Thank you so much, sir. We are so grateful, irrespective of the time that you've spent. I'm very sure that we all had value. So before I proceed, please, if you have any questions, please can you please drop them in the chat box so we can start to take the questions. But before I go to the chat box for questions, can I quickly just ask a question? So, Mr. Ayo, what advice would you give to someone that is struggling to make a decision, maybe a very quick decision in a high stress environment? Let's say, for example, the person works in a high stress environment and he has to make a key decision. Let's assume he's not the MD, the CEO, he's not in a key position. Maybe he's, I would say, maybe like a line manager. So he has somebody else he reports to that is higher than him. And then he's in a high stress environment, and maybe the team he has around him, they're not giving him the support that he requires, because sometimes if you're in a toxic environment, for example, you realize that it affects your mental health. You made reference to all of this. So how would you advise, for example, if there's an issue and then the line manager is faced with a team that is not responsive because of the kind of environment, toxic environment that it's within the office, and he has to make a decision quickly, and maybe he reaches out to the CEO and the CEO tells him, oh, handle it. How would you advise someone like that? How would you advise him to handle it? Because I mean, it's not everybody that can. So you've gone through the phase, maybe your years of experience has put you in this perspective of being able to sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and analyze situations, walk away. Not everybody can do this, because I mean, okay, let me let you talk. Let me let you talk.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that is where the value of mentoring is important. Quickly, a mentor is somebody that's in the same field as you are, has more experience, and not be in the same organization. So everybody that is a career person, you must have a mentor. A coach is different, and that's why you don't pay for mentors, you pay for coaches. A coach does not need to be in the same environment, in the same industry, does not need to be in the same company, but a coach basically challenges your perceptions, and you basically go ahead and execute and come back. So for someone like that, you must have a mentor, and it must be a mentor that you can get to pretty quickly. Get on the phone. I have this problem. I need to make a decision. These are the details. What do I do? And the mentor will basically help you to narrow down to the important items, and then be able to tell you, based on what you've told me, based on the important items, do this, this, this. And then you go and execute. If you are a career person and you do not have at least one mentor, you are like a blind leading the blind. So that's important. You must have a mentor. And the mentor must be somebody that understands what you're going through, understands the structure of your organization, understands what you've gone through in the past, so that when you pick up the phone and say, sir, I need to talk to you, please. Can I get to your mom? I need to talk to you. They know that it has to do with your work, and they know that they need to get on the call with you and help you out. So that's my answer. I hope I'll be able to answer your question.
Yes, you did. So, for example, let's just assume that, okay, let me just get right into it. So, for you now, can you give an example of I know you've mentioned, okay, so you already know how to deal with high level stress and stuff like that, but is there any practical example that you can give? For example, let's say you were working somewhere before, or any of these companies you've worked in the past, have you been faced with any high stress issue like this, and how were you able to resolve it?
Oh, yes. So high stress comes with the territory, right? So I faced an issue where I needed to drop employees. Market was bad. I was working for a global organization then. So I did not have the luxury of saying, okay, what do I do at my level to keep my people? The mandate was you've got to drop people. And you see, when you tell a manager they've got to drop people, you basically give them a number, a percentage. The person is now the person that would then have to go through the entire headcount and see who is who, what skills do they have, what market, what Because when you drop people, you're not shutting down the business. You've got to understand that. So that means there's a market you still need to service, right? If you just take, okay, I'm going to drop 25 people and just take 25% of people and drop them without analyzing what they bring to the table, what are their skill sets. By the time you drop them, you then have a situation where the market is asking for a specific skill set, but you have dropped the person, right? So I would then have to look at the market, look at what is coming, look at the services I need to provide, look at my head count, which was what I did, and then determine, oh, out of a team of 3, I can drop one. This is the person that has the least experience. When I then put that together, I then pass it on to my boss. My boss will then look at the list because he has some people on that list that he likes or some that he does not like. He will then say, oh, don't drop this person, don't drop this person, don't drop this person. This is the first time I listened to him. This is the second time I listened to him. By the third time, I realized that if I listened to him, I was the one that was going to get into trouble because I would then not have a team that would be able to do my work, right? So I told him, okay. I went back and looked at those he said I should keep, those he said I should drop. And I decided I was going to drop some of the people he said I should keep because it was no value to me. And I did it. Now, did I solve the problem 100%? Maybe not. But I was able to have an organization that was now able to grow the moment the market changed. Why? Because I kept the talent. So I gave you that example to show you that sometimes the decision might not lead to an 100% solution, but it moves you along the continuum of the solution. And that's reality. So the focus is not getting all the outcomes 100%. The focus is at every point in time, is my decision the right decision? Have I looked at all the data? Have I looked at what is expected of me? And have I taken the right decision at the right time? That will be the scenario that I will present.
Okay, impressive. Okay. So let me go to the chat box right now. But if anybody has any question, and can you please raise up your hands? Okay, let's go to Monica. Monica, please, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So, please, I'd like to ask the question and get clarification. Thanks for the lecture. It was nice. I learned some new things today. You talked about carrying your team members along so that when there are issues, you'll be able to sort it out. What if you are working with a leader or with a boss who knows very well there is a problem, knows you can help out, but still adamantly doesn't want to listen because she doesn't want to stand in front of whosoever she's reporting to and says the idea comes from so person? How do you deal with such a situation?
I was laughing when you're asking the question because it's fun, right? So the first thing you must do, Monica, is you must be comfortable enough that initially people should not know the solution came from you. And that might be an answer you don't want to hear, but hear me out. I've dealt with leaders like that, where they have such a high level of inferiority complex. They believe that it's only the leader that must bring a solution. You must learn to suggest to them what to do without them knowing that you are the one suggesting. It sounds like an evil plan, but it's not an evil plan. It's a tool. It's a tool in management. So by the time you guys, Oga, I can see that we're going through this zone, and I know that you are thinking of a solution. I know that your solution is normally perfect. However, can I give you one or two insights? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? And then it then becomes a conversation. And by the time you guys now have the plan, he will think I is the one that brought it up. It does not matter. I'll tell you why it does not matter. One, you have fine-tuned your own decision-making process. You have convinced yourself that this idea works. It came from your thought process, right? That thought process is yours uniquely. That's number one. Number two, if you are dropped in the middle of the desert without any tool, you can think yourself out of that problem. So even if the man does not stand before his bosses and say that, or the lady does not stand before his bosses and say that you are the one that brought the solution, the day you decide to go to another team, another organization, You already have an enhanced process of decision making that you're taking with you. It is your intellectual property. That's number one. Number two, the more you continue to do that, if the person is not an evil person, the person one day will recognize that you have been of value. And then ultimately, the person will either ensure that you are rewarded, or the person will ensure that you are promoted, or the person will say one day, we're going to hear this person that's been helping me all along. Right? Like I said earlier, what I said it on this call, or maybe it was another call. Human beings are the most difficult to manage because you can manage a machine, you can manage a process. A computer program, you put in your garbage, it gives you garbage. But human beings, they're coming from what's in it for me. If I do this, will it benefit me? And you must learn to become a reader of men to understand that and to be able to adjust based on what you come across. That would be my advice, Monica. Have I been able to answer your question? I don't know whether she can unmute again.
Okay. Okay, let me just take a quick question from the comments, from the chat box. Someone says, some people say they work better under stress. Oh, I lost that. I lost this question. A lot of people here asking for the recording for the presentation, if we can have the slides.
I've already sent the slides out earlier.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes. I sent it out earlier. So I sent it out as PDF, by the way. So that should help.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please, does anyone else have a question? If you have a question, can you please signify by raising up your hands?
The people that say that they work better under pressure, my advice,
Yeah.
I used to think like that. My advice to them is that you will kill yourself. Your health is normally impacted. So you must learn to mitigate that. Don't work because basically, see, when somebody says they work better under pressure, they procrastinate. Procrastination is their problem. Because basically they're keeping the things in the last moment before the work. They shouldn't do that. It's not good. Health-wise, it's not good. It kills you.
Yeah. I mean, your health is paramount. Okay, Oluwa Pelumi Ojo. Please, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
I just want to ask if it's possible to actually get the recording, because it's actually a lot of information that was shared, and and exactly what I want to ask. If it's possible to get the recording to actually listen again.
Yeah, I know the school. The school is going to send the recording to our email. So that's why it's important we fill the form. There's a form currently on the chat box now. So you can please fill it, and then you will get the recording sent to you alongside the PDF. Yes, thank you. So let's quickly go to Udrak. Udrak, please, can you unmute yourself and ask your questions quickly?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I don't think am I audible enough, please? Pardon my voice.
You are?
Okay. Firstly, my question is a little bit related to the first question that was asked, and I think I need more of clarification. So, sir, I want to quickly ask, if an individual is working in an organization where the line manager or the service provider do come up with an opinion and for the team leader to make this executed, and the team leader analyzes the opinion and look at, no, this is not going to bring a positive impact, and the team leader go ahead with his own personal opinion with the team and achieve 100% accuracy, which is exactly what every company will be looking up to for a good ROI. And this is being achieved. And the line manager and the service provider comes up and realize that it was not their opinion that was used in the operation, rather someone else's opinion. And the aim has been achieved 100%. And the both of them, the line manager and the service provider, would appreciate the effort. And this keep happening. And as human beings, we need this appreciation to keep going. Then along the line manager and the service user came with an opinion, and the team leader decided to work with their opinion and the order of the team. And the whole aim was not achieved. And the blame came like 100% blame. Why was this and all of that? So in a situation like this, how do you think the team leader could continue like making sure that his opinion counts and have that motivation to achieve this goal? Thank you very much.
All right. So the first and foremost is if your line manager says you should do something and you go ahead and do what you want, even if what you want to do, what you did, brought the results, can be misinterpreted as insubordination. So what I will ask you as a team leader to do is build a relationship with your team, with your line manager. What does that mean? Sir, I know you told me to do this. I've looked at it. These are the results we most likely will get. If I do it this way, these are the results I believe we'll get, and I'm accountable for those results. Which one do you want me to do? If they say go ahead and say do what they have told you to do, because you've already told them the possible results, you have already shown that you know what you're talking about. Go ahead and do what they tell you to do. When it goes wrong, now make sure you document your conversation. Here's what I will do. I'll send an email. After our conversation on executing A, I discussed with you and I told you that if I execute it as A, these are the results we will get. And I brought up another opinion that if I execute as B, these are the results we will get. But you have told me to go ahead as A. This is just to document our conversation. Don't ask him if you ask him, should I send the email? He will tell you no. Send the email. And then go do what they tell you to do. And if it then goes wrong, you say, but I told you, this is my evidence that I told you. Now, there are two major things that might happen. One, next time they will listen to you, which is a good part. Or two, they will tell you we don't want you in this organization. Like I said, listen, that you're told to leave an organization is not the end of the world. It basically means that organization is not fit for you. Go look for something else. You cannot allow that to affect your morale, so that because they don't listen to you, you now stop talking. You will not learn. You must continue to learn. You are everywhere you work, you are a consultant consulting for that place. You are not an employee. Stop seeing yourself as an employee. And I'm sure that Adesua will agree with me. She's an entrepreneur. So what I'm saying, you understand. You are your own your own business. You are just working in a place, providing services to them, and they are paying you something at the end of the month for it. If what they are paying is not enough, then you look for something else. And that's the same way you must come at this, Udwak. Let them know, based on your experience, this is what should work. Whatever that conversation is, even if they say go ahead and execute your own one, still document it. Develop a habit of documenting conversations like this because it helps you ultimately. That will be my answer to you, Dwak.
Okay. So let's just get right into the next one. We are fast spent already, time wise. Okay, so John is asking, he's saying, you mentioned analysis paralysis, a common pitfall in decision making. Could you please elaborate on how to overcome analysis paralysis and make timely decisions in high pressure situations? Specifically, I would like to know what strategies can help balance analysis and actions. Then two, how can one prioritize information gathering without getting overwhelmed?
Okay. Number one, analysis paralysis basically means I've gathered the data, I've analyzed the data, I have a possible decision, but because I'm so afraid that the decision, my executing that particular decision, something might go wrong, I'm not looking for more data. And then I keep going back, I keep going back. The best way to deal with analysis paralysis is you have a crisis, identify how quickly you need to make a decision to mitigate that crisis. That's the first step. If I need to make a decision in 3 hours, by 2 hours, 45 minutes, I must have a decision based on the data that I have. And I must execute. But if I wait, and 3 hours is when I need to make a decision, but now it's 4 hours, it's 1 hour after that 3 hours, and I'm still looking for data, that's analysis paralysis. Basically means you're afraid, right? So you've got to decide, I need to make a decision by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. That means before I sleep tonight, I should have an idea of what I need to do, even if it's two different options. And then when I wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow, I'll see whether there's new data to refine those two different options. And then by 6 a.m. tomorrow, I need to then decide which one of the two different ones I'm going to take. You are in control. You must know you are in control. If you think you're not in control, you're going to keep looking for more data. That's the best way I can provide that response to you.
Okay. On this beautiful note, I mean, there's still a lot of questions, and I can still see some hands up, but we've exhausted the allocated time that we have. And I want to say a huge thank you to you, sir. I know I've said this already, and I know that in the comment section it's filled with thank you, thank you, thank you. It was insightful. So, on behalf of every one of us here at RSBN, I want to say a huge thank you to you for your time, for pouring out your wealth of knowledge to us. I mean, we didn't pay for this, and then you poured out yourself to us like this. So thank you so much, sir. So on a final note, I just want to ask if you have any words of encouragement for us. Yes.
The words of encouragement I have is, I know the bulk of the people listening are based in Nigeria. Don't look at the economic situation that we're going through in Nigeria. I spend half of my time every year in Nigeria, so I know. The only thing I can tell you is that the people that have become rich in the world, they make their money in times like this. So for every difficult situation, there's an opportunity. So go out there, look for the opportunity, be innovative, and win. Win every time. That's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it's a win-win situation for every one of us. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again. On behalf of RSBN, the students, the staff, and everyone joining us, we say a huge thank you to you, sir, and we hope to see you some other time.
I look forward to it.
Thank you so much, sir. So now let me hand over to Mr. Ido Adeleke.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Mr. Ido. I think you are muted.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good
evening. Yeah, our sincere appreciation to Mr. Ayo. It's been a very insightful webinar today. I think I should actually call it a master's class, just like so actually said. You know, you went from just doing a whole lot of the processes to even bringing a case study to this webinar. We're sincerely grateful for this section. My name is Idowu Adeleke. I'm one of the key account managers in the admissions department of Rome Business School. So I'm just here to give one or two information so I can wrap up with the section today. So this will be the very first webinar for our prospect and students for the April 2025 intake. So welcome. This is what our students actually enjoy even before the start of their classes in April. So you're welcome. There's a series of webinars. This is one of it. We'll be having subsequent webinars in the coming weeks, okay? And this is Rome Business School, okay? It's a management training institute with the main campus in Rome, Italy. What we have here in Nigeria is one of the satellite campus of the school. Okay, so this is the way we give values, right, to our students, even before the start of their classes. And definitely we have just on this course to students that are already running their classes. That's October 2024, and then maybe April 2024 students too, right on this call. So it's a wonderful time, and I believe that we've all had values for our time. We've been on this call for the past close to 2 hours now, and it's been of an immense value. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. So the early bird scholarship is still up, and it's closing very soon. So if you're a prospect here on this call, apart from getting values from webinars like this, you also have the opportunity to get some form of financial discounts on the fees, okay? So thank you so much, Mr. Adewo Suatu, for moderating this section. I wish you all, and then thank you, Satu, and to everyone, to have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ido. Thank you so much. So for our final closing remarks, let me call on Ms. Chiamaka Ajuruchi. Hi, Chiamaka.
Hi, Adesua. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you so much for accepting to moderate today's section. And
Yes.
Mr. Ayo, we are really grateful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like, we really, really appreciate your presence today. And it was a very big or a very insightful section. Like, really enjoyed it. You could see that even with the long time that we had, we still maintained the number of participants. We had about 399 participants that were on the call to show you how insightful and interesting the session was. So I would really give a kudos to you and applaud you like virtually for this session today. And we'll
Thank you.
still continue this collaboration. I think I'll still reach out and maybe via email. So to the rest of the participants, thank you so much for your patience and for your time and for staying with us till this moment. So for some of you that still have questions, because I know a lot of us on this call have questions here, you can actually reach out to Mr. Ayo on LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn. I could see that some of us have already started connecting with him already. So you can reach out to him on LinkedIn as Ayo B. Shote. So he would, I'm sure he's very quick to respond to chat. So he can answer your questions. Then you can do well to ask him as many questions as you want. He will respond to you. And like he earlier mentioned, he has one of his books that is on Amazon. So you can also do well to purchase the book there, and he's open to your comments, observations, and corrections as well if there be need. And also for some of you that are requesting for the slides and recording, we've been sharing the survey on the chat. I don't know, maybe you have been seeing it, but we are sending it again. You can do well to fill the survey. We have the recordings, or we would have the recording, and we have the slides already with us. So just fill the survey with your correct email address, and you get the slides and recordings for this section. And also, I would really, truly like to appreciate you all for staying with us till this time. And do well to have a nice day and a nice weekend ahead. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Chamaka.
Thank
Once
you.
again, I'll say a huge thank you to every one of you for giving us 2 full hours of your time. It was insightful. Your presence here made it an amazing time with us. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers. See you on the next one. And don't forget, Run Business School is all about making better managers for a better world. Bye.